Hello, mother. Hello, father. Here I am at Camp Granada. Camp is very entertaining, and they say we'll have some fun if it stops raining. I went hiking with Joe Spivey. He developed poison ivy. You remember?
In our last episode, I was talking about all the various things I did as a kid growing up in Starbuck, and one thing that I neglected to mention was that during all of that, I joined the Boy Scout movement, and our local postmaster created a scout troop, and the moment I heard of it, I joined. I was always intrigued in Lord Baden-Powell and his scouting movement, and I had read a lot about that, and now I had the opportunity to attend, and I found that the features of the program so matched my own desires: love for the outdoors, love intuition, love making knots and making things, and all of this, and it all worked together to just make a great organization to belong to. And I belonged to the Scouts for 3 years and ended up as a patrol leader, and even spent one summer for 2 weeks at Boy Scout camp on the Assiniboine River, and that was my first really taste of outdoor camping, and I never lost that desire. And as a matter of fact, in later life, I devoted almost 16 years to advancing scouting in St. Patel and Manitoba, and it was a move that I never regretted, and I could see the results in my family as they grew up and became scouts, and learned to appreciate the great outdoors. Some of the happiest times of my life was the time that we lived on River Road. We were living close to nature. There was plenty of space for the kids to play, and we had the eternal watchdog, Phyllis, who kept everybody well away from the riverbank and worried herself sick. But for a boy and a girl's growing up in the atmosphere that we had, it was lovely. And speaking of family, as the boys were growing older, I was approached by the Boy Scout Association to become a scoutmaster. And having been a scout myself, as I had said in earlier editions of this, I felt it was a great training ground and a great area for any kid to raise his self-esteem and become a leader. And so I agreed to take over as Scoutmaster of the 3rd. And it was a bit of a challenge. The 3rd was a well-established scout troop. And the appealing thing about it was that they had their own hall and a big workshop there. And so taking over with adequate help from other leaders, we started to build a troop. And at one time, we had almost 50 kids in 2 nights a week, and with some 10 assistant scoutmasters. And we've developed programs to teach them, and not just play pickup games, but jobs that would help mold their lives in the future. I developed, along with the help of Dick Lyons, I developed a winter program which was called the Klondike Derby. That Klondike Derby was entirely originated in Winnipeg by the Third, by myself and Dick Lyons. And we were looking for a program that would give the boys something to do in the wintertime when you couldn't go camping and you couldn't go whatever. And we ran that program, and to my thought, that the program is still being run by the Boy Scouts of Canada in Manitoba.
We are the Transcona Railers.
This Transcona Cub Scouts group is all packed up and ready for a day in the woods.
Ropes in here and compasses. Wood. We got wood for fires.
They're part of the annual Scouts Canada Klondike Derby, where they will test their survival skills over a 2.5-kilometer course.
Yeah, so we're going to pull off pass.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah!
On your mark! Get set, go!
Yay!
Have a good day, guys!
And they're off. The event is in its 45th year and features not only Cubs, but Girl Guides, Pathfinders, and regular Scouts groups from around the province.
We've got teams of youth pulling sleds through the trails here, going and stopping at the towns where they're participating in challenges and activities to compete for gold nuggets. And at the end, the teams are scored on time and gold nuggets awarded to see which teams win. And based on how quickly they complete it, they'll be awarded 1 to 5 nuggets.
The scouting skills will help you navigate the obstacle course.
Some challenges the Scouts will need to complete include pulling their team and their heavy sled over a gully, fire lighting, and sawing wood. For these tasks to be successful, groups need to come together.
They really need lots of teamwork. A lot of the activities are time-based, so if they're not working together, it's going to be hard to get the goal done in time. I'd hope that they develop some good teamwork skills and time management, so good useful skills.
One, right, left.
It's especially vital in this activity, what some call a smooshboard race.
There.
Around 300 kids attended this year's Klondike Derby, an event so fun for the participants, many of them choose to attend again.
Well, there's different activities every year, so they just keep coming back, and we've got lots of fun activities that they'll participate in, and they're challenging, and they're always working together, and they keep moving through the years, so it gets more challenging in future years too.
For Shot TV's Go, I'm Kevin Hirschfield.
Another program that Dick Lyons and I developed was a canoeing program. Winnipeg being based at the junction of 2 significant rivers, and with the White Shell in close proximity to Winnipeg, the areas provided ideal area for teaching children how to paddle a canoe, how to camp on their own overnight, and we even took this to a point where we started collecting anybody who had an old canoe that weren't using it anymore. We would take it in and strip them down and re-fiberglass them. And the kids themselves worked on these. We also, at one time, built an 18-foot freighter canoe, which Glenn, my son, still claims should have been a barge rather than a canoe. But we used all of those to do some fantastic trips through the Whiteshell, on the Assiniboine River, on any river that had water in it. We would try it out and do portaging, do overnight camping in the wilderness, and explore new areas, and just open up a child's imagination as to what he could accomplish on his own. And I was so proud of that troop and those boys coming out of the troop who went in as a person who was not sure of himself, a little bit doubtful, and see them 4 years later come out with a total courage and satisfaction of being able to do anything they wanted to. And I know that that attitude has remained with those boys even to this present day, and I feel that was one of the biggest accomplishments of my career, was the development of children in the Boy Scouts of Canada. As I progressed through in 1946, I became in grade 11, and grade 12 came up, and I was faced with what to do with my life from that point on. There was no job opportunities around Starbuck. Well, there was, but they were not something that required a high education, required thinking. Working as a farmhand or as a laborer with a construction company was not what I really wanted. And I had always had a desire for engineering, but even that was out of the position at the time. And so in 1947, I graduated from high school, and I had written several letters to companies looking for a job, and I picked one in St. Boniface, Winnipeg, as a clerk for Canada Packers, and it provided me with the opportunity, I guess, to learn accounting and to learn processing and that sort of stuff. And so when I graduated from high school in June, I took off and moved to Winnipeg to begin my work career. It was a tough decision to make. I'd never been away from home for any length of time, and now I was completely out of the picture. Mother had worked hard at teaching me how to cook my meals and how to darn my socks and how to do the laundry, and she did the best she could to get me ready for living on my own. I had arranged for a boarding room in a house in west end of Winnipeg, and I think I paid $75 a month for a boarding room there, and my salary was approximately $200 a month, so I didn't have a heck of a lot left to spend outside. However, I didn't stay at that place too long. They would make up my lunch, and one of their favorites was turnip sandwiches, and that just sort of turned me loose because I never had a very good liking for turnips, and then to get a sandwich that spread nothing but turnips and butter and salt, that was just too much. So I had heard that a friend of mine, Doug Baldwin, who I had gone to school with, had joined the Navy in Winnipeg, and he was looking for some place to stay. And so between the two of us, we found a one-room suite in St. Boniface where we could do our own cooking, and it had two beds in it, and for me it was close to work because I worked in St. Boniface at Canada Packers, and for Doug it was just a short trip over the bridge and down to Chippewa. So that process worked for a while. I learned accounting and how to process bills and everything, but the salary was not too great, and so before long I started looking for some place else that would give me a better return for my money and also teach me something new. And I stayed in the processing business and worked and moved to a company called Manitoba Packing, which was about half a block down from Canada Packing, and their specialty was taking dead cows and dead horses and so forth and processing them for dog food and for pet food. However, I was the assistant bookkeeper at that place, and after I acquainted myself with the smell of the place, I managed to stay there for approximately 6 months, and I started looking again. This time I found a job with Sun Life, and this was right downtown Winnipeg. So again, as a bookkeeper, and so I left my place in St. Boniface, and I and a guy by the name of Milgard rented the third floor of a house on Agnes Street. And ironically enough, the house belonged to an aunt of mine, and it was within easy distance of walking to Sun Life and proceeding there. Once again, the work at Sun Life was in those days was all manual. As the checks came in to pay for life insurance, you would enter them all in a great ledger and had to balance the ledger at the end of each day. And it was all right working with figures, but it wasn't really that demanding, nor was it that rewarding. So I went to the newspapers, and lo and behold, I saw an ad in the newspapers for a junior with the Manitoba telephone system in their engineering department. And as I had said, I always had a desire to learn engineering and be associated with engineering projects. So I took the opportunity, applied, and I got the job with Manitoba telephone system. I worked with the Manitoba telephone system for approximately 5 years, and learnt all the processes of surveying and working with a level and working with surveying equipment and chaining and so forth. And it was quite fulfilling. At that time, the natural gas was just coming from the west to the east and was going to pass through Winnipeg. And I saw an ad for a engineer assistant, and working for a company, F.H. McGraw of New York, of all places, but they were the consultant engineering firm who were designing and installing new pipelines and so forth to ready the greater Winnipeg gas for the arrival of natural gas. And so I moved to F.H. McGraw and used all my skills that I had got previously in surveying and so forth, and I found my job very, very challenging and very rewarding, in that you could see things and get involved and see them happening and then see the after effects. Now, I mentioned that I was living with Milgard and so forth on Agnes Street, and at that time when I first moved, through Doug Baldwin, who was in the Navy, he convinced me that I should join the Naval Reserve. And I did this, and I found that that was another great move in my career, was to join the Royal Canadian Naval Reserve and learn about how the Navy operates, learn how to use a radio, how to use and all my skills with knots and so forth that I had learned earlier. And during that process, I was still working for Manitoba telephone system, but I mentioned that we were living on Agnes Street, and it just so happened that just 2 houses down on the opposite side of the street was another chap who was in the Naval Reserve. And he had a sister whose name was Phyllis. And one day I called on him to go down to catch the bus to go down to Chippewa, and I met Phyllis. And she was a lovely girl, and as a consequence, in 1952, she became Phyllis Olsen, and we lived together for some 67 years, and I never regretted a moment of it.